Mississippi State and Tennessee last night. The Bulldogs were in this one. I mean, they were really in it. Hey, Dad, you were there last night. Tied at the half? Walk us through it.
Up 9 in the first half, and then went on a little bit of a cold streak, and that allowed Tennessee to tie it up before they went into the locker room. Then back and forth for most of the second half, and then Tennessee finally gained control there with about maybe 5-6 minutes to go and never let it get away from them again. State's defense was outstanding in the first half. Held Tennessee to 2 of 15 from behind the arc, forced 11 turnovers, and that's what was keeping them in the game. And then in the second half, that wasn't the case. Only 4 more turnovers in the second half, and Tennessee shoots 8 of 9 from behind the arc. Even without Vescovi, who was out last night, Tennessee was able to get enough from Ziegler, who played all 40 minutes, finished up with 24 points. Really played well for them. But again, I don't like moral victory doesn't work, but maybe encouraging loss. Again, State was better from the three-point line last night. They were around where they were at the free throw line last night in the 60s, which, better than the 40s.
64 is better than 38.
Yeah, I thought they played well on defense. They were definitely out-athleted last night for sure. Tennessee just better players inside. I think Tennessee had 9 block shots in the game, and a lot of those were at the rim, if not right at the rim. There should have been some easy makes for State. Tolu Smith had a double-double, but he didn't play particularly well. The big guy was Shaq Moore, the career-high 20 points for him. State played with good effort. It's still there, and if they play like that on Saturday, they'll have another good chance to win against Florida. But between these next 3 games, Florida, then you're at Alabama, then you have TCU. I mean, those are 3 tough games.
Yeah.
You really need to find a win in here, or it's going to, any faint NCAA chances. And they're still on the Lunardi bubble. If you look at his bracketology, they're going to start slipping away at some point. The good news is once you get through this stretch, you only have one more game against a ranked team unless Kentucky gets back into the poll. So you have some easier games coming up. We've talked about that with still 2 remaining with South Carolina, 2 remaining with Missouri. Missouri's been good this year, but they're not world beaters. You have the game with Ole Miss. You have the game with Texas A&M and Vanderbilt. You have the opportunity to get some wins down the stretch, but right now they just need a win in this next 3 games, I think, just to get their net back up into the 40s.
You know what's crazy to think about with Tennessee? I mean, Zakai Ziegler goes for 24 points in 40 minutes. He's not a normal starter. He normally comes off the bench.
Yeah.
Santiago Vescovi's their starting point guard. Now, he'll slide to the 2, and Ziegler will go to the point, and they'll play with those 2 guys on there. Ziegler's not normally a starter, but he is a spark plug. And, I mean, the starters for Tennessee went 37, 28, 21, 40, 34 minutes last night. Tennessee only played 8 players in the game.
Yeah.
And 3 of them were in double figures. Phillips had 18. James had 13. And he's really kind of rounded fully back into shape. Josiah Jordan-James, who Haydad didn't know existed until about 3 weeks ago. But now he does.
Triple J.
And is it Plavich?
He's the player that nearly ran over Bully last night.
Yeah. Well, it's not his fault that there was a dog sitting courtside.
I didn't say it was. I just said he was the player.
Yes, I understand. So there you go. 70-59. Tennessee wins over Mississippi State. Vols are now 15-3 overall, 5-1 in the league. Mississippi State falls to 12-6. They are 1-5 in conference play. And I think, Ed, your point's a good one, right? I mean, hanging around. But you're now a third of the way through the league. There is time still to make up a bunch of ground, but it'll get late early.
Yeah, especially if you look at next week and you're 1-7 in the league, and then you lose it to TCU next Saturday in the Big 12 Challenge. At that point, it starts becoming they need to string 4, 5, 6 wins together, and that's going to be tough to do. It's just going to be tough to do.
I mean, if you're going
they can
to
beat
do that,
Florida,
if you're going to do that, the stretch where you have to do it is South Carolina on the road, Missouri, LSU, Arkansas on the road, Kentucky Ole Miss on the road. You want to win 6 in a row,
Yeah.
that's where you win 6 straight.
And even then, that would be incredibly difficult.
Yeah, because they don't shoot the ball well enough to win that.
Right.
I mean, should we rewind to the previous segment? You want to win basketball games, go make shots.
Yeah.
You can play lockdown defense.
I thought you were talking about State.
Yeah. You can play lockdown defense. You can turn another team over. You can out-rebound them. Those things are important. Sometimes that will win you games. You want to win games on a regular basis? Make shots. State's not a great shot-making team unless they change their DNA as the season goes along.
I mean, let's be totally honest. Their issue is not correctable right now.
No, it's not.
It's not. They need shooters. How many times last night where game was, 1, 2 points, 4 points, they were up 1, up 2, whatever in the second half, they would get an offensive rebound, kicking out to an open shooter, he'd miss it. They'd get another offensive rebound, kick it out to a different shooter, he'd miss it. There were so many chances to have that shot in that game, and time again, they just missed it. And that is more of a product of, you hate to say it like this, but it's just true. It's more of a product of not having the person that can consistently make those shots as opposed to anything that Chris Jans can do to fix it between now and, the drop-dead date to make the tournament.
Yeah. I've said it a few times on the podcast, and I don't know if I've said it here, but if Iverson Molinar had just come back for Mississippi State, they would be a much better team. Just to have a guy that you could trust to shoot the basketball, that could create his own shot, that could give you some offense. I mean, he would be a huge difference maker for this team.
Net rankings at this point for the SEC, you got Tennessee at number 2 in the country. That's pretty good. Alabama, 3. Arkansas, despite some of their troubles in league play, 27. Auburn, 28. Kentucky, despite some of their issues, 39. Florida, 48. Missouri, 51. Mississippi State has slipped to 53. They were as high as, 5? 6?
Mm-hmm. Way early.
Yeah. No, it was early. Yeah. It was early. Texas A&M.
Well, that's
Aggies getting hot again. It's kind of like they did last year. They're at 55 and trending up. What were you going to say?
I was going to say it's like they're not playing well right now, but you just said, I mean, of these, they're 1-5 in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
4 of those losses are to teams in the top 28. 3 of them are to top 3.
Sure.
I mean, and this is the time, for me, I think State has, these last 2 games has played better than they played against Georgia and Tennessee previous to that. Whereas this time of year last year and previously under Howland, this would be the time they start slipping. This would be the time they're like, gosh, they were playing better than this a couple weeks ago. I think they're playing better than they were a couple weeks ago.
And the crazy thing, hey, Dad, is Mississippi State being at 53 in the net it's a function of a couple of things. One, they had that high ranking early, and so there was a lot of wiggle room for them to fall and yet not be in the triple digits.
Which we talked about, yeah. Yeah.
Here's the other part. It's a little bit of an anomaly when you look at their schedule because their non-conference strength of schedule was like 280.
It's not great. Having that quad 1 win over, I think, Marquette.
Yeah.
And then for a long time, Utah was a quad 1 win. That has slipped a little bit as well. But, yeah.
I mean, think about this. Mississippi State is at 53 in the net, which is about 10 spots from being squarely on the bubble. And yet they are 2-6 against quad 1 and quad 2 teams. They just haven't had a single slip-up. They're 10-0 against quad 3 and quad 4.
And that was a problem last year for State. They lost a couple games in the non-conference they should not have lost.
Yeah. I mean, you look at Ole Miss right now at 103. They've got a quad 4 loss. They've got a quad 3 loss. They're 8-2 in quad 3 and quad 4 games, and then nothing to balance it out, right? I mean, 1-7 in quad 1 and 2. There certainly is no more room for Ole Miss for slip-ups. Never mind. Sorry. I'm I'm so